Oh my goodness guys, this is nothing short of impressive. Hello YouTube, I'm Pilot Stud, and as you can guess from the title of the video and that beautiful footage, today I'm taking a look at the F14 TOMCAT by DC Designs. This impressive aircraft has not been released yet. It's coming out on the 19th of August. So naturally, this is a preview video, not a total review. If you're new around here, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. But now, let's take a look at this beautiful aircraft. Now welcome here to RAF Lakenheath, a USAF airbase right near me, so I thought it's a good place for me to show around a former United States Air Force and of course United States Navy aircraft. Now in this package from DC Designs you get the A and B variants, with completely custom sound sets for the two variants as they do have different engines. And while this is not perfect, I have to say this is probably DC Designs' best aircraft for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think it knocks the F15 out of the park. First of all, we're going to take a look at the exterior, then we'll take a look at the interior, which I don't think is as good, and then we'll talk about how this aircraft performs in flight. Let's get quite up close then and take a look at some of the details this beautiful aircraft contains, this one being the Alpha variant. So getting up close, you can see the external model is pretty well done. It's not perfect. In my opinion, it just about hits Microsoft Flight Simulator standards. But getting close, you can see a few glitches, and as always, I'm going to be completely transparent on it. However, around the rest of the aircraft, with the exception of the quality is pretty good. I do notice that this gear is just off the ground, although do not fear, I've tested round, and it would appear this is just an issue with the Lakenheath scenery. From the back of the aircraft, we've got some really impressive engine detail and our arrestor hook there. That's right my friends, if you want to fly this on the aircraft carriers, you can. It is compatible. It's compatible with the Hard Deck Simulations carrier module. Let me just swap over to the B variant so we can compare the look of that. But I'd say I'd probably give the external module a 7 out of 10. It's nice. There's a few issues in places, but until you're really up close, you're not going to see it. None of the decals are floating. Reflections are nice, but now let's swap over to the Bravo variant. So here we are with the Bravo version. I think this is better. I don't like the unsymmetrical engines in the back at the Alpha version. I've turned the engines on just so you can hear it. It does sound very impressive. We've got effects as you would expect. This is perfect with Sim Update 5. We've got tyre smoke, everything like that. And it's nice to have the engine heat haze right at the back. Honestly, with this scenery, it does look really realistic. Only thing I would say, sadly with this version and this livery in particular, there seems to be a lot of pixelation. In this case, it takes this livery on this aircraft down to a 6 out of 10. Not perfect, but I think it just about does the job, although I hope DC Designs can improve it in the future. As you can see, just looking around, and if you're further away enough, it looks really good. But now, let's hop into the cockpit. So, I won't lie, when I got into the cockpit, I was pretty depressed. It's very pixelated, quite blurry. You can see a lot of the graphics have been brought over from somewhere, which is strange because this is built from the ground up for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now it's not to say it's all like that, there's plenty of stuff to give it credit for, from the custom made displays to most of the buttons working. But it's not all there, and sadly really doesn't hit what I would expect for a payware aircraft. Price has not been 100% confirmed yet, although as this is a preview video I won't be talking about whether or not it's worth it, but right now you can pre-order it on the Just Flight website for £25 UK. Just bear that in mind when I'm looking at this. So looking around the back of the cockpit, you can see, yes, it looks pretty good here. It's just really the front. I mean, I don't understand, but I've seen this with DC Designs before, and people said about the F15, it's just these kind of blurry textures. I hope they sort it out, and I'm sure they will do. Looking at the top of the cockpit, we've got the best heads-up display for Microsoft Flight Simulator, in my opinion. There's no glitches here, they've done it perfectly. We've got no double display, no weird overlays, no flipped overlays. Really good job. Moving here, we've got the primary flight display, which works very well. I was very impressed with this. Obviously custom made, because we've got nothing like this in Microsoft Flight Simulator. To the left of that, we've got our analog instruments from our altimeter, which of course you can adjust the pressure on as you'd expect. To speedometer right at the top, it's in knots. And we've also got an angle of attack indicator up the top left, which I think is a really important instrument. Moving down, we've got a navigation display here, which I think is probably the most impressive part of the cockpit, custom made, and it works really well, integrated, as you can see, in with this freeware scenery, which I wouldn't really expect. I'm not even sure if Microsoft Flight Simulator scenery always works that. You can see we've got our airspace on there. It's really quite impressive. A VOR indicator right down the left. Sadly, I'm let down a bit by the stick here. It just looked pretty bad, I'm not going to lie. It moves, it responds as you'd expect, but just looks pixely and grainy. Moving down to the left side of the cockpit, we've of course got our throttle, which works as you'd expect. I don't want to rev it all the way up, otherwise we will start taxiing. Then of course we've got our automatic flight control system controls down here. We've got autopilot down here as well. You can engage it. It's really your basic 2-axis autopilot. It goes left to right, up and down. Simple as that, and it does of course follow a heading. Most of the other buttons around here don't work, so let's look around the front again. Here we've got our gear assembly, which works as you'd expect. We've got our parking brake, and we've got our fuel switches down here as well. There's also 2 right at the top of the aircraft that allow you to cut off fuel supply in an emergency. Moving down to the right hand side of the aircraft, you can see the arrestor hook there, which of course isn't really going to do much at the moment because we're not on an aircraft carrier, but it's nice to see that it works anyway. There you go, you can see it right at the back now, pulled out. Very cool stuff. We've also got a collection of caution and advisory lights down here. However, I really don't like looking at this. It actually annoys me, quite frankly. It doesn't look very nice in my opinion, but maybe it's realistic and I'm completely wrong. And we've got our master generator switches down here as well. The aircraft does start up, it's all in the manual. It starts up very easily, like the F14. Not too sure whether that's realistic or not, but it really is your basic startup, batteries, generators, APU, engine, that kind of order really. I've flown this aircraft numerous times now. I've spent about 2 hours flying around, so how does it fly? Well, let's taxi and talk. That, my friends, does sound like a bit of a late night talk show, but let's go around here at Lakenheath Air Force Base in beautiful East Anglia. So flying wise, well, taxiing wise, it feels really nice on the rudder pedals. You can see we've got a bit of a wobble there. That's probably one of the more realistic aircraft in terms of taxi performance. I've never really experienced an aircraft with a bit of wobble, and they are really like that in real life. So hats off to the developer there. You can see we get a bit of wobble when we're moving about. It's just very nice attention to detail. You don't need to put too much force in, and it's not overtly sensitive or unsensitive. It's just a well-rounded kind of experience. Let's get some flaps down now. And there you go, you can see we get flaps down. We don't want them that much, but there we go, just to see. Anyway, let's get up now. Keep an eye on that heads-up display. We'll just go full throttle. Just look at that heads-up display. That's impressive stuff. Right, already ready to pull up. We can also reduce some power, so I can actually talk. And here we go, up in the air in the F14. We can bring the gear up now. There we go. Flies like a dream, really. I do prefer the B variant over the A variant, but of course the A variant was used in Top Gun, which is what I used for the opening scene of this video. It is a really nice aircraft to fly. Enjoy a bit of footage now. From me going around Midwest America, I couldn't tell you the area. It's really impressive stuff. So back here over Lakenheath, the sounds are really impressive. Custom sound sets, and it doesn't just silence it like so many Hayware developers do. We've got the engine humming down, and the afterburners. The afterburners are there, and they've got their own sound. For those of you who want to break the speed of sound, you can do it. I haven't seen any particle effects or breaking the sound barrier effect just yet, but there is the sound there, so at least that's one thing sorted. Shadows and reflections when you're flying, including the mirrors, are really well done, although they were really well done with the F15, so that doesn't come as much of a surprise. But honestly, it's a really pleasurable experience just flying this aircraft around. Slightly older jet aircraft are not in really active service, especially in the USA anymore, but I know this aircraft holds a firm place in many people's hearts. And of course, perfect to reenact Top Gun. We couldn't go in this video without talking about it. It does feel really nice. What are your thoughts on it, guys, so far? We've got an average cockpit. I wouldn't say it's anything outstanding. They could work on it, that's all I can say. We've got plenty of liveries, we've got 2 variants, we've got very good sounds, very good reflections, okay textures, good manoeuvrability. They're fully compliant with VR according to the developer. And of course, we've got that world famous swept wing, which when I increase throttle and pull up, you'll see the wing starts to move back to cope with high-speed flight. Perfect for intercepting on multiplayer. Here it comes. It does take a bit of time, but it's really impressive that they've managed to code this into a Microsoft Flight Simulator aircraft. And there we go, the wing starts to come back. That world famous, I guess it's a variable wing design. It's very good stuff, very impressive. And just look at the climb rate in this bad boy. Really good fun. I can't say it enough. We are above the clouds already. There we go, wings are all the way back now, and we're going to level off. And if that's not a thumbnail there, guys, I don't know what is. What an impressive aircraft. Let's get back on the ground and talk about the pros and cons. I'm not going to tell you whether or not you should buy it, because this is a preview, and that would be unfair, but I'm sure you know how it works. So back on the ground here at RAF Lakenheath, parked up very nicely on a ramp, the southern apron. So right now we've just got our APU on, you can hear that noise in the background. First of all, pros, it flies really well, you get plenty of liveries, it's a pretty stunning aircraft. With plenty of impressive systems. Of course they're not aiming for a study level F14 like you might get on DCS, but they're not too far off, I don't believe. It's nice that they've built this aircraft all the way from the ground up. The display screens, I have to say, primary flight display, navigation display, they are probably the most impressive part of this aircraft. You can see a lot of love and TLC have been put into them. However, like everything, there's also some negatives. I'd like to see improved fidelity of the textures within the cockpit, because they're not up to scratch. They just look too pixelated in my opinion, and especially with the screws. Look at them. If you're not going to do it right, don't put them in. I've got to be honest. Of course, a lot of hard work gets put into these aircraft, undeniably. But just some of the stuff really needs to be worked on. The screws, just look at them. They're not really 3D. They're basically 2D textures at this point. That can be followed through with the cockpit. I've got to be honest. I know what the developer has done. They've tried to give it a used and rough feel, but just applying a texture decal over the stuff under it, I mean, it doesn't really cut it. Work on that. Aside from that, the manual included provides a bunch of information about this aircraft, so you know how to start it up, fly it about, land it, troubleshoot any issues with it. It is really well done. Some good and bad in this aircraft, but I have to say, overall, I'd give this aircraft a solid 7.5 out of 10. From the pilots moving in the cockpit, and you can actually adjust the badges they're wearing. It's just attention to detail like that that's rather impressive. For those of you wondering about weapons, while you can't fire them, you can come into the payload manager and adjust them in here. Let's just get some bombs in here. And you can see we get some missiles on the side of the aircraft now. And if you want some big hefty bombs, you can see it actually pulls the aircraft down. And the bombs are right at the back. The bomb is right at the back there. But there we go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this preview video. It's certainly an impressive aircraft. One that should be on your wish list. It's a lot of fun. Let's clear that away. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you to my first class channel members. They get a shout out on the screen now. Thank you to Captain Matt Russell, Ethan Bebek, Simon Schmidt and Jesse Wiseman. You guys really mean a lot. But anyway, guys, from me today, thank you to the Just Flight team for providing me with a preview copy. Tell me your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear them. From me today, that is all. Bye bye.